I'm here with Felicia Ricks, and we got connected through Anthony Masiello and sent me a video about her story. She's lost 206 pounds and has just an incredible journey. And so, first off, Felicia, thanks so much for taking the time. And maybe we could just start off with a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
Okay, thank you, Jason. My name is Felicia Ricks, as you stated. I'm from Newington, Connecticut, which is approximately 7 to 8 miles outside of the capital of Hartford. Um, I'm a mother, I'm a minister, and as you stated, I lost over 200 pounds. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, maybe going back, your weight. From what I read, it sounded like it was something that you had always kind of dealt with or struggled with. What was your expectation of food growing up?
Um, well, it was just for, of course, for nourishment, but mainly for enjoyment. And growing up, my mother, she did feed us, fruits and vegetables. But it was a lot of we ate a lot of like starchy starchy foods. And I got used to those types of foods. They were, comfort foods for me.
Got you. And were you a little bit bigger growing up, or was your weight something that kind of started later in life?
It started later in life. Yeah, it started. I noticed, well, actually, in my teens, I started noticing, I would gain weight and then I would lose it. I would, like do like these crash diets and wouldn't eat. And then it would fluctuate. And then I think when I was like 15, I became a vegetarian, but that was just a fad. I didn't know, I didn't actually know what I was doing. It's just, oh, okay, I'm not going to eat meat. That was just one way of me kind of keeping the weight down. So I guess now that I think about it, I guess I did kind of struggle growing up with my weight.
Okay. And then I know you said you had tried various diets. What do you think it was before that that prevented them from sticking, or prevented you from keeping up with it long term, rather than just like you said, something that just is a crash diet?
I think the main thing was that I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know I didn't have enough information. I didn't have enough knowledge about nutrition. It was just primarily focused on weight loss and not health. So that was the primary reason for going on the diets. And it wasn't I didn't think of it as a lifestyle. It was just something that was going to be temporary. Once I lost the weight, then I'm going to go back to eating the way I was eating prior to the diet. So I think the main thing was just knowledge.
Wow. And I think you said at your biggest, you were 350 pounds, unhealthy, tired, and noticing that your body was starting to break down. Can you talk a little bit about what was going on with your body at the time?
Well, I started noticing I couldn't stand for long periods of time. Like I would start to feel pain in my lower back, just doing like chores around the house. If I was washing dishes or something, I would have to, lean over on a sink because I just, my back would start hurting. Doing the laundry, I would get out of breath going up and down the stairs. And but I would make excuses. It's like, oh, the laundry basket is heavy, so that's why. So I wasn't really being honest with myself, and so those were the things that I was beginning to notice. But it didn't push me enough to make a change at that time.
Yeah. And did you have any other struggles as far as just in everyday life, or frustrations being bigger that you dealt with during that time?
I noticed whenever I would have to go someplace. For example, my daughter, she played in an orchestra, and when she was in college, she would tell me about her upcoming concerts. And the first question I would ask is, where is the concert going to be held? It was either held in one of two places, and it was either in the student center or in the auditorium. If it was in the auditorium, that meant I had to walk further. And I would make provisions for that. I would leave like half an hour earlier just to walk because I knew it was uphill, and I would get there early because I didn't want to see anyone seeing me tired and out of breath. And then once I got there, I would be sweating profusely. So I always liked when her concerts were in the student center where I didn't have to walk that far. So that was one thing that I would do. And then I did that a lot wherever I had to go. It was like, okay, how far do I have to walk? Is it someplace where we can park closer? Or if we went as a group, when I used to work for a large corporation, we would go out to luncheons and stuff. I would always be concerned, like, are we going to have to sit in a booth? Because the booth is going to be too tight. And I'm going to be uncomfortable. These things always went on in my head. So I think that I was basically like a prisoner in my mind, just, concerned and worried about these things that I'm sure other people just, there's like took for granted.
Yeah, it's interesting how I think you're right. Some people do take for granted, but it's also interesting how I think sometimes people who either are bigger or were bigger can relate in a lot of ways, but it's things that you never talk about. And then once you start talking about things, you realize, oh, I'm not the only person who actually considered those things or, like you said, made those provisions.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that you're a pastor. I have conversations sometimes with people who are, a little bit more in the public spotlight. I know you said previously, it sounds like you had another vocation as well. Did being, I'm guessing, on stage or, at the pulpit in a public setting, did it affect your decision to make a change at all, or did those happen at different times?
Well, I'm a minister. I'm not actually a pastor, but it didn't really affect, my speaking in front of people. But I didn't like when people would take pictures or videos. I never wanted to look at it. And then one time someone took a video. I was like, who was that? And it was like, that's you. I'm like, real? I said, that's not me. So, from that standpoint, I was like, please don't take my video, don't take my picture. I just, but as far as speaking, it didn't really, affect me speaking. The only thing that affected me was if I had to stand, I would have to lean over onto, a table or something. Yeah.
Got you. I know that in your video you mentioned that you saw Dr. Furman on PBS, heard his message, and started his program the next day. Do you think that was just incredible timing, that you were ready to kind of receive the information and you literally the next morning woke up and decided to make a change? Or had you been considering it for a while? What kind of played into that?
It was incredible timing because that day I was supposed to go to the movies with my daughter and my nephew, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna stay home. And as a rule, I would never watch weight, anything having to do with weight, because I would say to myself, oh, I know I got to lose weight. I'll do it one day. Like there was always a Monday. So
that's so true. So true.
So I just happened to be flipping, and I saw this man with all of this energy. And I think I turned to the part where he was saying, and you don't have to be sick, and you don't have to get cancer, and you don't have to have heart disease. And I'm like, wait a minute, And at 2 years prior, my sister had passed away from pancreatic cancer. And like I said, I had no clue about nutrition. And then my mother had heart disease and all these sicknesses he's naming. I'm like, I know people with these illnesses. So I'm like, and it's related to food. No one ever said anything like that to me. So that right there, his energy, and what he was saying, his message, it caught my attention. And then his, what he was saying, just make salad the main dish. I'm like, wait a minute, this can't be this simple. All the other things, it's like, it was too complicated for me. And so that's what really, really caught my attention.
And did you have any concerns at the time about the future for your own health?
Yes, I did. I did. There was an incident that happened one day when I was getting in a tub and I kind of slipped. And I thought to myself, I just started thinking, I was like, what if I would have fallen? What if something would have happened to me? And I said, well, that's not fair to my daughter to have to take care of me. It would be embarrassing to have someone come and, take me as heavy as I was if I had to go to the hospital or something like that. So all of these things started playing out in my head. And I said, I have to do something. I really need to do something.
Got you. And I think you also said it was refreshing to hear a doctor talk about eating our way back to health instead of using medicine to treat chronic illnesses. Speaking about, I think, the PBS show that you saw him on, what was different about that than your previous experience with doctors or with healthcare?
Well, because my previous experience was, they treated everything with medicine. Like I said, when she had cancer, that was the nothing was mentioned about nutrition. It was medicine. When my mother, nothing was mentioned about nutrition. She's on all this medication. And everyone else that I know that was on medication, like as soon as you would go, when I went to the doctor, and it's like, well, your blood pressure is, a little elevated. I didn't go back because I knew had I gone back, they would have put me on medication because that was the rule with everyone that I knew. They said I'm on medication for high blood pressure. So I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to go back because I think that's what he's going to do with me. So that was like eye opening for me as well.
Yeah. So were you on no medications at the time?
At the time, no.
Once you decided to start to, wake up the next day, you're going to make the change. What did those first couple weeks and months and days look like for you?
The first couple of weeks, I was excited in the beginning. Of course, I was excited. I was like, I can do this. I'm gonna, this is well, I was excited about, what the message and everything. And but I did not like salad. That was my hurdle. I didn't like vegetable. I didn't eat a lot of vegetables. And I tell people my vegetables was on top of a pizza, you know. That's how I got my vegetables in. But when I started, I was, I was, I can't do this. I can't, and I went through detox, which, for a little while. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but I'm glad when I went through it, I was working from home. So I was able to, I had access to, the bathroom, because I did go through detox. So that's what I experienced.
I think you said maybe in the video as well, which I think is a common misconception, that during the time you were losing weight, that you were going to have to deprive yourself of food. You said you didn't necessarily love salads. What changed? Did your taste buds change? Did your mentality change? Did something else change, or did all of the above change? In terms of going from, I know you said you love salads now. So what was kind of the progression of that?
I think my taste buds started to change, and as I continued to, eat the salads and eat different foods that I was not normally used to eating, I started to appreciate the value of those foods. My mentality did change towards food, and I noticed I was like, wow, because I would never buy fruit. My daughter would always want to buy. When we go to the grocery store, she would pick up these melons. I'm like, no, that's too expensive, and then I would go and get this Danish. And she reminded me of that the other day. I'm like, no, fruit is not necessary. But I started to appreciate, the vegetables. I started to appreciate, the fruits and the healthier foods, and just realizing the benefit that it was doing for my body.
And then I know you said you went through detox, and then also you said your taste buds changed and things like that. How long did those things last? Like, how long did it take for you to get through detox? How long did it take for you to start, like you said, appreciating these foods that previously you thought weren't necessary?
Detox, I think it lasted approximately maybe, but probably like a week and a half. Like yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah, yeah. It was not fun. Um, but I was determined at that point. At that point, I said I was determined to go through it.
How long did it take for, for example, your taste buds to change, for you to start, eating foods that you previously weren't interested in?
I think that might have taken probably, I don't know. I can't remember because it's been years, but it might have been maybe probably like about a month or something like that.
Yeah, I know for me, it's surprising. My wife, I still surprise my wife sometimes with foods that I even now, 5 or 6 years later, will try almost for the first time and kind of fall in love with. And she'll say, you're eating all my edamame, which up until about a month ago, honestly, I didn't eat. Um, so it's interesting how those things, change in ways that you would have never thought would have changed. Anything that's happened or changed that you weren't expecting, whether it's socially, physically, emotionally, that you didn't think were going to be a part of this new life.
I think one of the greatest things that's changed is that I have an abundance of energy. I just have so much energy, and I'll be 60 in a couple of months, and I just have an amazing amount of energy. And, like I said, not knowing all this information before, I'm thinking that as you get older, you progressively go downhill and you start to forget and do all these things that you hear people say, oh, that's just a sign of aging. But I'm finding that I just have all of this energy. I'm invigorated. I'm excited. My whole mentality is changed towards life in general. Like, I love being outside, whereas before I did not like it. I love being out in the sun. I love to go walking, and sometimes I'll just run and jump, and I'm just more free now. And that to me is just it just has changed my life from that area aspect.
That's awesome. I think in the video you said you're a new person and that people who know you can't believe the transformation you've had, and especially that you've done it without surgery. What do those conversations usually look like or sound like?
Some people, they'll be like, "Is that you?" Like they're shocked, and they be, "Oh, what'd you do? Did you have surgery?" And I'll say, "No, no surgery." And they will, "Well, what happened to all the the extra skin?" They're wondering, like, "Did you get that cut off?" I'm like, "No," I said, I didn't have a lot of excess skin." And so they're questioning, and some people, I'm sure they probably don't believe me. Uh, but I do have the before and after picture to show them. But yeah, some people, they don't even recognize me. It's like, I didn't know that was you. So yeah, it's kind of interesting just to see the expressions on the faces.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I had a lady one time who didn't want to allow me to cash a check at a bank, and I realized that was the point of time. It was time to change my driver's license. They kept passing it around and said, "Does this look like him? Is this like him?" I'm like, oh gosh, I gotta go to the DMV.
This is me for
It's me,
real.
I promise. I know that you also said, towards the end there of your weight gain, you'd been developing some allergies. How are those now? Now that you've lost the weight and life's a bit different.
Since I started, I can say I have not been sick at all. No, not even as much as a cold. I used to get the flu. I used to get sick. And I was starting to develop allergies. And then there it is again. It's like, well, as you get older, these things start to happen. And I'm going along with it because like I said, I had no clue. I'm like, okay, yeah. But I noticed I don't have any allergies. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not supposed to happen. So yeah, that was the other thing when he mentioned, I'm like, oh, so wait a minute. What I'm eating has something to do with me developing these allergies. So Yeah, so yeah, no allergies, no nothing, no sicknesses.
That's great. And so, what kind of physical activities do you enjoy now? I know you mentioned running and jumping. Is there anything, do you have a kind of a regular physical activity schedule or anything?
Um, I I don't go to a gym or anything like that, but I do exercises. Outside. Make sure I get a certain amount of steps in. I make sure that I'm constantly moving my body. Um, going up and down the stairs. I'm running, I'm walking. I'm just constantly moving. Sometimes my daughter will tell me, like, would you sit down? I'm like, why? Why? Got all this energy, you gotta expend it.
That's awesome. And I know, I think I saw somewhere that you said she kind of joined in with you in terms of the healthy eating and whatnot. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, she did because she was experiencing a lot of health issues as well, and she noticed that once she started changing her eating habits, that those health issues resolve themselves. Yeah, so she's on board and she's eating. So and it's easier, with two people in the house eating the same way.
Well, maybe if you could give some advice to somebody who is ready to take that step and is ready to move forward and make changes and is ready to feel better and kind of take control of their life and their eating, what advice would you give to that person?
I would tell them to definitely understand what the benefits of eating a healthy diet and the consequences of not, because like I said, knowledge is power. And once you really understand what you're doing and that you have a responsibility, like this, sometimes, I'll speak for myself. Um, I had a tendency to take the responsibility off of myself, and once I started to take responsibility for the what I was doing to my health, that made a difference. And just um, educating myself, and then reading Dr. Furman's books and understanding what healthy food, the benefits of eating a healthy diet, and the consequences of eating an unhealthy diet. That was major for me. So if I had to advise someone, I would really tell them to just start at that point. Really look within yourself. Don't look at it as this is a diet. Look at it as a lifestyle. This is a lifestyle change, and the weight loss will come on. But sometimes we have deeper issues going on. It's not, and the weight is just a manifestation of those deeper issues. And once you start to deal with that, then the weight, like I said, the weight will come up. But you got to deal with your inner issues.
That's all great advice. And if you could go back in time and have a conversation with your, former 350-pound self and give that person maybe a nudge or some, words of encouragement that you think maybe would have gotten you started on the path a little bit earlier, what would that be?
Why didn't you pay attention? Why was you so stubborn and closed-minded about everything? That's where the conversation would start. I was totally closed-minded. I would not open my mind up to anything new. And I suffered the consequences as a result. I wish I would have known about this stuff earlier, but like I said, I closed myself off to learning. So that's what I would say to that person.
And then lastly, where can people find out more about what you're doing and connect?
I don't have a website or anything. They can probably contact me. I was on Facebook. I probably will start my Facebook page up again. But I'm at gloriousbody.fr@gmail.com. So if anyone wants to contact me through my email, they're more than welcome, and I'm willing to do what I can because that's my passion. now is to help other people. As a matter of fact, I retired from my previous job because, like I said, my whole interest, my whole passion changed. My life actually changed, and I was like, I didn't know this information. People that I was around didn't know this information, so I feel it necessary to share what I've learned and how it's helped me with other people that are struggling with these issues.
All right. Well, great. Well, I'll include all that information. And Felicia, thanks so much for the time. Thanks for the inspiration, for sharing your story. Congratulations on the incredible transformation, and we'll look forward to chatting with you soon.
Thank you. Congratulations to you as well.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.